We continue live right here, Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani, Gene Collier with you at 412-575-2600. I want to ask Gene about a question that happened today. A story broke today. Is actually something that happened on Ottawa's last trip to Arizona. The Senators play the Coyotes, and Senator players have struggled this year. They've gone through a lot. They've traded their best players, and 7 of their members of the team went out in an Uber after going to a dinner place, had to Uber back to the hotel. And during that trip, the Uber driver decided to record it. Now, listen, I understand safety issues. You should record things in an Uber because you don't know if you'll need it if something bad happens. I get that. What I don't get is that while these guys went off and you know, casually were just talking about coaches, not unlike people talking about bosses maybe, you know, on their own private time, and said that they weren't very organized, they didn't like their penalty kill, blah, 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 blah. Next thing you know, this Uber driver puts it on social media, which to me violates everything. And I hope Uber has a policy that says you can't do that and you're thus fired. Gene, I want to get your take on that. Number one, the players had to apologize, which I don't know if I believe the apology because they were saying what they really felt. But at the same time, I know it's not an invasion of privacy, but when do we draw the line on these sorts of things?
Well, I mean, this is a terrible thing, but Uber's been involved in many terrible things on multiple continents. So, I mean, it's not a surprise to anyone, I don't think. They were banned from London for a period. But yeah, that'd be my recommendation to you, Bob. Don't take Uber. Call a cab.
Call a cab. Well, how about if a cab did? My point is,
I know
should you go public with that kind of conversation if there was no safety issue involved?
Look at 75% of the stuff that's on the internet. Should it be made public?
No.
No. That's where we are.
But
that's
I mean,
where
now
we
you're
live.
compromising, you know, players who say something not intended for public consumption, and it becomes the talk of the entire hockey world.
Well, yeah. So, the players are no different than anybody else, are they?
I
mean, I'm not siding
with.
with.
It's despicable.
I'm not siding with Uber, but I mean, being a hockey player does not take you out of the culture entirely.
All right, let's say you were in an Uber, and,
yeah.
Okay, and you say something that you're, you know, whatever, it's just meant for conversation purposes with the Uber driver, nobody else.
Right.
Does he have the right to put that on?
I don't think he does, but it's happening every day, isn't it?
Okay.
So be careful what you're talking about in the back of the Uber.
In fact, we are going to sign off right now. We're not going to say another word the rest of the night. Thank you for joining us. Now let's go to the lines. We got Ed in Carnegie. What's up, Ed?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
All right, what's up with you?
2 questions. I don't know if you was aware of this, but the game against Jacksonville on November 18th is supposed to be 8:20.
Yeah.
They changed the time to 1 o'clock.
Yeah, they did that yesterday, and yes, we were, and it helps us because we get the game on KDKA now, yes.
Yeah, and the other question is Smith's going to start tomorrow in goaltender.
D. Smith. I don't know that I know that. I mean, you may say that, but...
So it was a
first of
question.
all, I'll say this about the Penguins.
I like the callers who say they have a question and then make a statement.
And make a prediction or like he knows.
And that's
the thing about Matt Murray, I could argue with you that he was the best player on the Penguins roster last night. Really could. Because despite 5-1, and it sounds bad, and he got yanked, he was hung out to dry because Penguins were not fighting for pucks. They had no energy, Gene.
Could have been 9-1.
It could have been, yeah. So you can tell me it's that he lost, he looked bad, and he got yanked. But I will tell you he was the best player on the ice. Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it could, as I said, I thought it could have been 9-1. He's had some games where I think he's been terrible, but last night was not one of them.
All right, let's go to line 5. Marilyn is on line 5. Hey, Marilyn.
Hi guys.
Hi, Marilyn.
Thanks for taking my call.
Anytime.
I'm wondering about these line changes that Sullivan's making with the power plays and the regular lines. It seems like it's going to become like a Rubik's Cube, and you're not going to know when you get back to the original configuration.
Yeah, you know, I think he's doing it to try to shock them into something. They've lost 4 in a row at home. They're better than that. They take on a team tomorrow that's a defending champ. That should wake them up right there. But I also say this. I think sometimes they get caught up with veteran players to the point where they have some younger players who are not benefiting by sitting on the bench too long. Gene, I don't know how you think about this, but this is a fast game in the NHL. They set the standard for speed. Right. Other teams have caught up, and yet the Penguins would rather, and I to say this because I think Matt Cullen's a wonderful hockey player, but he's 42 years old. He should not be playing more minutes than Daniel Sprong if you're trying to develop Daniel Sprong, in my opinion. Yeah,
no, that's an excellent point, and it's one that's often overlooked with the Penguins. They have so many good players that it's hard to work newer players in because you tend to run out of patience with them when you're looking at them next to the great players that they have. So this is just one of the downsides of all the blessings that the Penguins have. And right now, it's making Mike Sullivan appear as though he doesn't know how to fit them together either. I think that's what's going on.
All right, let's go to line 3. It's Steve in West Mifflin. Steve, welcome to the Sports Call. Go right ahead.
Hello, Bob. Hello, Gene.
Hello.
If Bell comes back, who would they move in the roster to put him in?
Probably Stephen Ridley. They wouldn't need him anymore.
Okay. How come we haven't heard too much about college basketball, Pitt and Duquesne?
Well, because they just started. Tonight was Pitt's
I know,
first
but
game.
Still,
well, I mean, what are we going to say? It's Jeff Capel's taken over a team that was just terrible, and quite frankly, they're picked to finish last again in the ACC. We will talk about it. Don't get me wrong. I love basketball. In fact, I'm recording the doubleheader, and I'm watching Zion Williamson and Duke destroy a good Kentucky team because they have so much top-end talent. Thanks for the call. But Pitt won tonight. They beat Youngstown State, and hopefully there'll be more wins in Jeff Capel's future. Same, true, but I mean, we haven't even started yet, basically.
No, we barely got started. We've let one viewer down in not talking about it enough. But you're right, Bob. There's not much to say about Pitt. The question about Pitt is, can they win a conference game? If they do, that'll be a step forward.
You think it's that slim pickings right now?
Well, yeah. I mean, they don't have much. I think Jeff Capel's an excellent hire, but don't forget they're 0-19 in the. There's not a lot to talk about. There just isn't.
No, we'll see. As time goes on, if they show you more, we'll talk about them more, and we will.
Same with Duquesne.
But right now, it's one game into this, and it's against Youngstown State, so we don't have much to go on.
Right.
Let's go to Maryland in Natrona Heights. Maryland, go ahead. You're on.
Hi, it's Mary Ann.
I'm sorry. That's my bad.
Okay.
I misread that. Sorry, Mary Ann.
That's okay. Beautiful granddaughter, Bob.
Oh, thank you.
And
1-year-old
he
today.
reads
How about
really
that?
well, too. Yeah.
Ellie Grace, 1-year-old. Oh, my. We're getting old.
Oh, beautiful.
Thanks.
Okay, my question is in regard to the goalie. A lot of fans start to blame the losses on Matt. What is your opinion of that? And do you think he should start tomorrow's game?
I'll answer the second part myself. Thank you for the call. Appreciate your comments. Yes, he should start. Gene, what do you say?
Yeah, I would start him. I think he's really kind of desperate for a rhythm right now, and he doesn't have it, and sitting him down is not helping.
What about the first part of that?
The first part of it was, why do people blame the goalie so much? I know that's probably a nationwide thing, but it's especially acute in Pittsburgh. The people who seem to get blamed for everything are the goalie, the cornerbacks, and the offensive coordinator. They're the top 3.
There's no doubt about that, and that's why we have shows like this, so we can hear that time and time again. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll delve into the Steelers and Carolina, which comes up on Thursday Night Football. Color Rush uniforms. I love those uniforms. We'll talk about that game. It should be entertainment and certainly high scoring. That's when we come back right here on Pittsburgh CW.